Hi, this is Jess Mahler, and this is my learning walk for Module 7, and this is an overview of my online instructional unit. I chose to focus my unit on my 7th grade English class. I am currently a 7th grade learning support English teacher, and this year we wrote a narrative essay. So I took that and tried to incorporate it into this online instructional unit. On the front page here, I created a custom header using Google Drawings. I put a picture of myself on here. It kind of is a bit smaller than I had hoped, but at least there is a picture of me on there. I have Welcome 7th grade English. I have my office hours posted on there, and then obviously my name as well. At the top post here, I just have a welcome. Just welcoming the students to the class, and then continuing on, here's just the stream of things that I have been uploading. I think it's a good SEL strategy to include pictures of myself and fun little Bitmojis like this in my online classroom. Students can feel more comfortable with me as a teacher in an online setting. Even though they might not know me face to face, they can still get to know me in the online format. So here's the outline of my course in the Classwork section. I really love Google Classroom and how on the side here it kind of separates it into different sections. Unfortunately, my school does not use Google Classroom, so this was nice to play around with. And again, I really liked how it was organized and it was very easy to use. And I wish that my school would incorporate something like this instead of we currently use Canvas for our online learning platform. So going through, up at the top is the first topic, which is course information. I have links for about the teacher, narrative writing unit, learning outcomes, and the directions for the narrative essay. Students can go back to this at any time if they have questions, if they're wanting to get to know the teacher a bit more, or if they need their directions again. If I were to go into one of these, I made a Google Slides presentation in order for students to learn about their teacher. Again, that is another SEL strategy. I want the students to be comfortable with me as their online instructor in this online instructional unit. I have a little introduction here of what we will be doing in the unit, and also what students need to do and what they need to have in order to access the course. So, for example, they need a computer and access to the internet daily. Here I have the listed learning outcomes. These align with the Pennsylvania Department of Education Standard Aligned System. And last, I have the directions for the narrative essay. So I felt that this was important to include up at the top, right with the other course information, because that is the main focus of this unit. All right, so from then on, I broke down the writing process into 6 steps. So here is step 1. I have an overview, which gives students directions of what they are required to do in order to complete step 1. Below, I have posted in order that they should be completed. I have a pre-assessment using Google Forms. This is a good way to gauge the students' knowledge before they are completing the unit, so that way I can make adjustments to instruction as needed. Then I have a YouTube video to introduce students to narrative writing. And after that, I have a Flipgrid assignment where students will need to record a video of themselves explaining what a narrative is. And last, for step 1, I have a daily check-in, and students will be required to just check in at each step and write 2 to 3 sentences just telling me how they're doing, any questions they have, or comments that they can make. I incorporated this for every single step of the writing process, and students are allowed to comment on each other's posts. So if they have a question, another student can jump in and answer it. It's a great source of collaboration between students, and I do like how I built this in every step, so that way I can check in with students along the way. So next we'll move into step 2, which is brainstorming for their narrative essay. Again, I have the overview with the directions and what students will need to do in order to complete this step. I have the example narrative that students will be able to read. I have a PDF graphic organizer that will help students brainstorm their thoughts. This is an assignment that they will be required to complete, and this will also help me gauge if students are understanding the expectations and to make sure that they are on track with the assignment. And again, just like in step one, I have a daily check-in where students can just let me know how they're doing, ask questions, or make comments if needed. Moving on to step 3 is writing the rough draft. So in step 3, I have an overview, providing the directions. I have a YouTube video that describes attention grabbers. For the student's assignment for this step, they will be required to post their attention grabber to a Padlet, and then they can also view the other students in the course attention grabbers as well. I felt this was a fun collaborative tool so students can get ideas and see what their classmates are writing. When I did this with my in-person students, I had them write and then share out in a discussion, and they really enjoyed hearing each other's thoughts, and some of them came up with some really creative ideas for their attention grabbers. So I thought that was a good way to collaborate in an online setting. And next, students will start working on their rough draft. I have a Google Docs assignment posted here. It will make a copy for each of the students. And then at the end here is the daily check-in, again, just to check in on their progress and answer any questions they may have. Step 4 is conferencing, and I wasn't really sure how to incorporate this into an online classroom, but I figured the use of Zoom and Zoom breakout rooms was probably the best way to go. So to have students sign up for their conference, I've created a Google form where students can sign up for their preferred time, and then I can go in as the instructor and match students up based on which time they selected. Now, some students, might choose a different time and I'll have to move things around. But for the most part, I did it so that students are able to log in and get live, writing feedback as compared to, just a Zoom meeting with me, the teacher. I will also be meeting with each individual student to review their writing, but I think it's important that they hear from their peers as well, because their peers have great ideas to incorporate into their writing. So I think it's important that they hear from them as well. And again, I have that daily check-in at the bottom. Step 5 of the writing process is the revising and editing stage. So students will first look at the overview. Then I have the rubric posted that will show how they will be assessed on their narrative essay. Then the assignment I have listed is a narrative checklist. So students will go through and evaluate their own writing, and there's different stages for if they think they're proficient in it, if they think they still need more support. So it's a good way to self-assess the writing and help them figure out what they need to revise and edit prior to submitting the final draft. And at the bottom of this step, once again, is a daily check-in. Step 6 is the last step in this narrative writing process. So students, again, will look at the step 6 overview first. They will be required to watch a YouTube video that describes MLA formatting. This is what they are required to submit their final essay in. So I think it's important to show them what it should look like and give them, just the basics. I have the final draft assignment posted here. Students will be required to submit 2 separate documents, one for their rough draft and another for their final draft. The reason why is because I want students to make corrections to their draft. I found that my in-person students, after we did the revising and editing stage, a lot of them just submitted what they had to begin with without making any corrections. So I made a separate assignment for this so that students know that they actually have to change some things and fix things in their essay before posting it for their final draft. And at the very end here is another daily check-in, and this is kind of just to wrap up the unit and ask students any questions that they may still have. Most of my online instructional unit is designed to be completed asynchronously. However, there is the one synchronous aspect of doing the Zoom conference and the Zoom breakout room with their peers. So I try to incorporate both of these so that way students are able to access the learning environment at a time that is best for them. I didn't want to require any daily classes because I know not every student can log on at consistent times during the day. So I made the work asynchronous, but I did want to incorporate that synchronous check-in because writing is a process that needs a lot of revising and editing and feedback. So in order for students to get that feedback, I think the synchronous Zoom session or the breakout rooms was the way to go. As far as SEL strategies go, I tried to, introduce the students to myself as much as possible, put myself in a little bit of everything that I write. I put a section about me on the front page. I have a picture of myself and a Bitmoji. And I also try to incorporate a lot of classroom collaboration throughout my unit. I have the daily check-ins that students are able to comment on each other and answer each other's questions. I have the Padlet where students will be able to post their attention grabbers and provide comments to them. And I also have the Flipgrid assignment where students will be able to view each other's videos and really develop a sense of community in the online learning environment. So I tried to incorporate a lot of different assessment techniques into this online instructional course. So that way I can tell if the students are meeting the learning objectives or if they need additional supports. So after creating this unit, there's definitely some things that I would like to improve upon. For example, a lot of the YouTube videos that I found were not made by myself. And I think, if I'm creating the learning environment, I think it's important for students to hear my voice in the videos and, a bit more of me. I felt that I found a lot of online resources that I kind of incorporated in, which I think it's great to use things online. But again, I want to build that rapport with students because it's difficult being online. I would also maybe want to add a bit more collaboration throughout. I know it is an essay, which is an individual assignment, but I feel like I could probably add more collaboration in like the brainstorming or, maybe the revising and editing section. Like after they conference, maybe they can also help a student edit their paper. I don't know. So I think there's definitely room for improvement in collaboration and getting peers to work with each other. So some of the standards from the National Standards for Quality Online Courses that I touched upon in my course is Standard A, Course Overview and Support. I believe I did a nice job with A3, which is the instructor's biographical information and information on how to communicate with the instructor are provided to learners and other stakeholders. So on here, I have my office hours, and then in the classwork section in About the Teacher, I have a whole Google Slides presentation about myself. I also covered Standard B content, more specifically Standard B1. The online course objectives or competencies are measurable and clearly state what the learner will be able to do to demonstrate as a result of successfully completing the course. So I have the learning outcomes listed here. So by the end of the narrative writing unit, students will do the following. Standard C is instructional design, and I felt that I did a nice job with Standard C3. The online course is organized by units and lessons that fall into a logical sequence. So I created a step-by-step process of writing a narrative essay. So I felt that it was easy for students to follow. They know what step they need to go to next, and it was obviously presented in a logical sequence because it is numbered. Standard D is learner assessment. Standard D3 states that assessment practices provide routine and varied opportunities for self-monitoring and reflection of learning. So throughout the whole unit, I have those daily check-in questions that students are able to, make comments, ask questions. So that way I am able to assess their learning and they can monitor their own learning as well. I do have the rubric checklist built in here that students can review their own writing and evaluate it using the checklist. And the checklist matches up to the rubric, so that way students know if they have it on the checklist, they will probably have it on the rubric as well and earn a high grade. Standard E is accessibility and usability. Standard E4 states course multimedia facilitate ease of use. Throughout this, I do have YouTube videos and Google Slides presentations embedded. If you click on the section, it's right in there. So students don't have to go anywhere else. It will just open it in a new tab, but it will not navigate away from the course page, which I think is really nice. Sometimes students will click on something and it will navigate them away from the page that they're currently on. And that could cause some problems. They lose their place or they're not sure what to do. So I like that it is embedded right into the course material. So that way it is very easy to use and navigate. Standard F is technology. Standard F2 states the online course tools support the learning objectives or competencies. The assessment tools that I'm using do align to the learning objectives, so I felt that I covered that well. And students can also use the technology built into the course itself to ask questions and receive additional support. And the last standard from the National Standards for Quality Online Courses is Standard G, which is course evaluation. And Standard G3 states the online course is updated on a continuous improvement cycle for effectiveness based on the findings from ongoing reviews. So my course had a lot of improvements since the first post that we had to do with our online instructional unit. The peer that was assigned to review my course did an awesome job reviewing the information and providing a lot of great feedback for me. So she gave me some great polishes, some awesome praise, and some very helpful ponders. So I think I tried to incorporate as many as those things that she suggested into the course, so that way, I'm improving it. And I always think it's good to have multiple eyes on something, so that way you have multiple perspectives and they can give you some good feedback and good ideas. So overall, I really enjoyed building this course. I thought it was kind of fun to put my own spin on things. And I like designing the little areas to incorporate myself into it as well. As I mentioned before, I wish my school used Google Classroom, but if I ever do use Google Classroom in the future, I will have a better idea on how to use it and how to organize my course information.